Welcome back to The Time of Your Life. I'm your host, Ethel Rasmussen. Volunteers support communities, and this especially holds true for the wonderful support from the volunteers at the Department of Aging. To learn more about this topic, I'd like to welcome Danielle Singley, the Home Team Program Manager at the Department of Aging. Welcome to the show, Danielle.
Hi, Ethel. Thank you for having me. I'm grateful for the opportunity.
Wonderful. As you know, May is Older Americans Month, and it's particularly meaningful to highlight the Home Team program during that time. The theme for the month is Get Into the Act. Would you mind sharing with our viewing audience the significance of Older Americans Month and the theme for 2015?
Sure. Older Americans Month recognizes the many contributions that older Americans have made to this nation. In honor of our 50th anniversary of the Older Americans Act, our focus this month is to recognize the achievements of, become engaged in the community, actively take charge of one's health, and positively impact the lives of others.
Perfect. The Home Team program is a wonderful opportunity and to provide action steps to go along with the theme of the Older Americans Month. Can you talk about the role of the Home Team program within the Baltimore County Department of Aging?
Absolutely. The Home Team program, in essence, is a friendly visiting program. And our mission is to reduce the feelings of social isolation in Baltimore County seniors who are homebound and isolated. So our friendly visitors are volunteers who provide the necessary social engagement and reassurance to help those seniors remain independent in their homes longer and to have a more increased quality of life. So one question that I'm very commonly asked is, what's the importance of being socially engaged? What's the importance of friendly visiting? How does that really impact and help seniors? People don't really understand how important it is to have that social support system. First, seniors are very likely to become socially isolated due to a number of reasons, a number of life-changing factors, some of them having to do with environmental changes. And when I say environmental changes, I'm referring to perhaps moving in with a child, having to leave the home that they've known for 30, 40 years and moving to another state to be with a loved one. Maybe even having to downsize their home and move into an assisted living community or to, some senior living community. Another change that might impact the likelihood of becoming socially isolated would be any kind of social changes. So that could be a loss of a spouse, that could be children moving away and you remaining in your home. Perhaps retirement has happened. So the people that you're used to getting up and going to work every day to see, you're no longer seeing them, which leads to economic changes. Perhaps your resources have changed, your money situation. You're not making the money that you used to make, so you cannot afford to go and to the same clubs or the same organizations that you used to, and so forth. So because of those changes, seniors are much more likely as they get older to have support systems sort of dwindle. And I didn't mention physical changes. That's another thing that can also contribute to that, because if you're not able to get out and move and drive and so forth, you can't get out the house to see and visit and just be active in the community like you're used to. So because of those changes, it really does impact your life quality. And a lot of times it can cause mental illnesses, it can lead to depression, it can do so many things that really make it difficult for you to keep going. Malnutrition is very likely if you are socially isolated. And also poverty. If you have no resources, guess what? You can't get out to go grocery shopping and so many other things. So anyway, that is why it's very important to remain socially connected to the community. And what our volunteers do to help the community and to help with the seniors who experience these conditions, these life changes, is provide that necessary social support.
So what are the responsibilities of a Home Team volunteer?
Okay, well, the first thing to become a Home Team volunteer, one of the very important responsibilities is to complete our vetting process. So before you become a volunteer, you have to become a volunteer applicant, and that consists of a formal interview, a formal application, our background check. You have to successfully complete a background check and then complete orientation and training. Once you actually become a home team volunteer, though, you will experience a matching process. That's when one of our field coordinators from the office will meet with you and meet with a potential client, because I say potential because we have to make sure that the fit is appropriate. So once that happens, usually it's a grace period that will take place to make sure that everything is going well. And once things are going well, we ask our volunteers to submit a monthly report that will document exactly what their visits were like, the time that they spent, what they did, and any kind of issues and concern. Now, that reporting piece is very important because, first of all, it is the bread and butter of our program. You know, we don't have any other revenue source. The only way we can really know that and justify that we are an existing program is if we have a timesheet come in from our volunteers. But it's also important because that's how we really pay attention to the notes, so we can see if there's any kind of issues that may have, you know, come up since we made the placement. And so we depend on those reports. We do follow up, we read those, and if we see things that are alarming to us, or if we see an issue, we will follow up with that client and possibly try to reach out and find out if there are any other resources. When you become a home team volunteer, they're issued a training manual. The training manual walks the volunteers through all the expectations of the program. And in that also is information on how to report other issues. That can be elder abuse, it can be any kind of mental decline or cognitive decline or physical decline that may, you know, happen during the course of a friendly visit or over time. Volunteers are asked to report that information as well. So that's what the responsibilities pretty much of a home team volunteer is.
Okay, so what is the criteria to become a home team client?
To become a home team client, they have to be a Baltimore County resident. They have to be at least 60 age of years or more, of course. They have to be homebound. They have to be isolated or at risk of isolation. They also have to agree to our assessment process. So that's the first step. They can come into our program a number of ways, though. They can fill out an application. They can pretty much just call our office and say that they are interested in the home team. Or they can be referred to us by a case manager from a human services agency. Now, the assessment process, it's very important because, one, we use that information that we collect to find the correct volunteer, make sure that the volunteer is a good match for the client. The more information we have up front, the better selection that we can make in terms of placing a volunteer with the client. And the client's always part of the process. If they don't feel comfortable with someone, they can let us know. The same way with the volunteer as well. But in addition to that, we always have to make sure that the situation is a stable situation before we actually place a volunteer. And what I mean by that is, if there are any kind of issues or concerns that may make an environment unsafe for either the client or the volunteer, we do try to find other resources because I work for the Department of Aging. We do have access to other programs. We have knowledge of other programs that could possibly come into a situation and make it stable before the placement of the volunteer. And that really is important because we want to make sure that all of the well-being of the volunteer and well, the client, I'm sorry, is being met, so that, you know, we're not putting a volunteer into a situation that may not be the best situation, and that the client is not depending on the volunteer, expecting the volunteer to do things, and the volunteer not being able to do it because they don't have the resources.
Wonderful. I'm sure you've inspired many of our viewers to be a volunteer, or perhaps they know of someone that would be an appropriate client for your program. How can people get in contact with you?
They can call our number, 410-887-4141, or they can email us. I will respond to the emails, or anyone in our office can. And the email address is hometeam@baltimorecountymd.gov.
Sounds like a very rewarding program. I hope you get lots of calls.
Thank you.
We're going to take a short break. When we return, learn about Senior Center travel, senior box office, and what's happening at your local senior center.